Hello and welcome to Framingham Now. I'm Jack Patrick Lewis, state representative for the majority of South Framingham, some of North Framingham, and the entire town of Ashland. On this program, we talk with elected officials, community leaders, and area activists about the current political landscape in Framingham and the future of the town that many of us call home. As you likely know, this fall, Framingham will be journeying from being a town to a city. And as it journeys through that process, we'll be electing our first city council and our first mayor. On this program, I have invited all of the candidates that will be on the ballot this November to come on to the program and to answer a series of questions, actually the same questions that I've shared with all the candidates in advance. I hope you've taken the time to watch the other interviews. And today I'm honored to have John Stefanini on the program. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Jack, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
I look forward to our chat here. You've been around the community for many, many years. People have got to know you in many, many capacities. For those maybe small handful of people who are just tuning in from at home and haven't seen you as state rep or having your role on the Charter Commission or a whole host of other things, and they're asking themselves, who's this John guy and why is he running for mayor? What is your answer to them?
So I would like to believe that my experience, my education, my activities have uniquely qualified me to lead our community as our first full-time mayor. Whether it has been my education, which has focused on municipal government and public policy, whether my activities as a teacher, both at Framingham South High School for a short period of time or at the collegiate level, teaching history and public policy, my work as one of the last three-member Board of Selectmen. It's funny because people compare it to the current board. The three-member Board of Selectmen, I ran on a reform platform and we drafted the Town Manager Act and worked that through. But before that, the selectmen had all the authority that the mayor will have. We hired, fired, and managed all of the department heads. We did all of the appointments that the mayor would do. So I've done many of those things. As a state representative, I learned the inner workings and laws of government so that I could build relationships around grants and other programs, which I know you do on a daily basis. I've done that. As an attorney in private practice, I've worked with municipalities across the state, with investors and businesses and developers to work through whatever the community issues are to find a mutually beneficial activity. And lastly, in the last, since I left government, I've spent my time in the community in dozens of different boards and committees, from serving on the Board of Trustees at the Metro West Medical Center to the Brazilian American Association to the Framingham Lacrosse Club and many, many other groups, using my talents to the community. So I know this community well. I've spent the last couple of months or a few years re-engaging in the government of Framingham. I have not been in the government of Framingham for the past 17 years, and studying it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been active in the civic engagement in the communities, more than just voting in the elections, but participating in virtually every decision, whether it impacts my family or my neighborhood or the community at large.
Excellent. Can we talk a little bit about your priorities if you're elected in November? So I know you've been out there knocking on doors, having conversations. People haven't been shy sharing their thoughts with you. And I'm curious if you talk about maybe your top 2 or 3 priorities for Framingham's future.
So I tell folks not to be cliche, but I have a plan, A-P-L-A-N. First, we need accountable action. That means the buck stops with me. As Harry Truman said, and as mayor, I will be accountable to the people in the community, but we need to take action to deal with some unresolved issues that are lingering in our community. P, we need a plan. We need a strategic plan that any organization of any size has, that Cambridge and Somerville and Boston have, and we need to engage in a robust community dialogue to develop that plan and then roll up our sleeves to implement it. L, we need to listen. Listen as a leader is more than having your ears open. It's active engagement. It's going to people's doors. It's in organizing community coffees and meetings. I've sent a survey out to every resident, as I did every single time I've run for office, to engage in a dialogue about what's important to people and how we deal with that. A, we need to be affordable. Our tax rate is amongst one of the highest unified rates in the state. Our fees are climbing. We need to make sure that our community is affordable for all of our residents in our community, which means we need to do a top to bottom review of our services and make sure we're providing them in the most cost-effective way possible. And N, not last but least, is neighborhoods. Everything begins and ends with our neighborhoods. We need to make sure that our neighborhoods are vibrant and active, and that we are doing all we can to support whether it's as simple as a block party or community policing or dealing with traffic concerns in a local level. Our community needs to hear those things and make our neighborhoods as livable as possible. They are the foundation of our community, and the strength of our community as a whole is derived by the strength of our neighborhoods.
Excellent.
A plan.
A plan. I will not forget that myself. I know my neighbors have been asking me to help start a neighborhood party, a summer party in our neck of the woods. So
I've done that.
When you're elected, I'll let you know, and maybe you can help me figure out the logistics.
You should involve the police and fire. They bring their little trucks and everything. The kids love it.
Little barricades. Okay. For my neighbors listening, I'll try to get on it in the midst of everything else we're doing. So one of the things I've asked of all the candidates is how we can best support our local community, but specifically, communities within the Framingham community. As you know, we have a thriving immigrant community here in Framingham, and since being elected in November, it's a community I've heard from probably more so than most of the other aspects of our town. People are afraid in a way they haven't been before. They're concerned. They have heard stories, and now we're at a point where everyone seems to know someone who's been picked up by ICE or something going on in the community. People are afraid to go to the bus stop. People are afraid to go to work. And they're asking me to make sure I ask all of you, the candidates running for mayor, what you think the town could or should be doing in the future to protect.
Great question. And thank you for your work in this area. First of all, our diversity is one of our best assets in a community, and we need to take every opportunity to celebrate it, to protect it, and to embrace it. As you probably know, my grandparents chose to live in Framingham. They emigrated here from Italy and Canada. They chose Framingham because it was centrally located, because we respected integrity and hard work, but also because it was a welcoming community that embraced its diversity. We need to continue doing that. In the 90s, when I was a selectman, I embraced and developed policies that exist to this day, where our local law enforcement collaborated with each and every community, whether it's Russian or Irish or Brazilian or Central American. We need to, on a case-by-case basis. I was recognized by the president of Brazil for efforts during that time period. I've been recognized since in my pro bono work around immigration work. I would commend the stuff that you and Chairman Eldridge have done around the Safe Communities Act. That's exactly what we need to be doing. We need to be embracing thoughtful policies, and we need to be resisting efforts nationally to vilify the folks in our community that are a huge part of making our community the livable place that it is. We need to ensure that our schools are safe for our children, and our workplaces are safe for our residents, and our homes and neighborhoods are places where people are comfortable. And I think Safe Communities Act is the way to approach that, so that we're dealing with it in a unified way, and resisting the efforts to vilify those very folks. And so to me, that's always been a priority. I served on the board of Brahmas. I've remained active. I've taught some courses in ELS. So that to me is a priority for us as a community, not just for the communities that are involved, the specific communities, but for us as a community at large.
Excellent. I'm happy to hear that from you. I'm happy that the mayoral candidates have been engaged on this, and I know between now and the September primary and then on to the general, more and more people are going to be asking all of you running for mayor, and they're looking for assurances.
I've been asked that question
millions of times, I'm sure. And so, unfortunately, our time always goes by more quickly than I'd like it to. I'm sure you and I will have many opportunities in the foreseeable future to continue our conversation. In closing, you've been on the Board of Selectmen, you've been state rep, you were on the Charter Commission, everything from, I think you said, lacrosse to involvement with your church. You've really had a role in this community. Was it lacrosse or softball?
Lacrosse.
Lacrosse, okay. I try to keep my
I was an
sports-
All-American in high school.
Okay, I try to keep my sports straight, but occasionally my kids will make fun of me because they get blurred into one. You've had an active role in Framingham for decades now, and I like to think that that's not only because of who you are, but because of the kind of town Framingham is. And in closing, I'm just curious, what is it about Framingham that makes it the sort of town that you've been happy for all of these decades to invest so much of yourself in?
It's all about our people. Our people make our institutions work. It's the teachers in our schools. It's the community police officer who takes the extra effort. It's the neighbors that get together for a block party. It's about community and community engagement. And it's interesting because as I walk around, and I've knocked on doors in every neighborhood in Framingham, and sometimes the dialogue will get to, how did you vote on the charter? And the thing that's fascinating to me is whether people voted yes or no, they all agree that they did so because they love the community, because they want to preserve our open spaces, because they want to protect our neighborhoods, because they want to fill our vacant shopping centers and support our local businesses, because they want to improve our underperforming schools. And my pledge to them is very simple. I will work hard each and every day to ensure that the fears of those that voted no are never realized, and that the hopes and aspirations of those who voted yes are fully realized. Because working together, the people of Framingham will define Framingham, not our structure of government, not our institutions. It is the people that make our community the place that we all choose as our home.
Excellent. Well, really, again, John, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know I'm going to see you out there on the campaign trail. You were just flipping burgers the other day in South Framingham. For those watching at home, please take the time to get to know all of these candidates. Look out your front window because there's a good chance they're all going to be lining up to talk to you and hopefully not interrupt too many dinners or wake up too many babies. They'll leave that all to me next year. But really, thank you so much for tuning in, and stay tuned as we interview another candidate here in a couple seconds.
Thank you, Jack.
So much.